game is right now the #1 RPG game on Facebook.
Why do you think it's been so successful?
I think probably because of the fan base, because they're rabid fans and just want to know more about the content, and it just works really well in the off season as well for when the show is not airing.
Okay. Hussein?
Yeah, I think one of the more effective campaigns we have run recently has been for L'Oreal. And what we did there is really leveraging multiple types of Facebook ads. So a lot of people will take out Facebook ads and grow their fan base, and then they won't know what to do with that fan base. They say, hey, great, I have 1 million fans, I'm awesome. But really, you're not awesome if you're not doing anything with that fan base. And what L'Oreal was able to do is recognize that, and they've done a lot of work with engaging their fan base, making effective posts on their fan page, and then taking the next step. And I believe Facebook will be over here later on today talking about that, but creating page post sponsored stories, which basically takes anything they're posting on their fan page, turns that into an ad unit, and creates even more engagement and more activity on the fan page.
I've had the pleasure of working on a lot of successful video campaigns over the last couple of years, but the one that comes to mind first, and one of my favorites, is a program we produced last year called Control TV. We did it in conjunction with Seth Green and the Robot Chicken guys, and we involved multiple brands. We had Sprint, Ford, and Snickers all involved. The show was a concept that was really built for the medium. It was around a 22-year-old guy who really was kind of lost in his life. We had him live in a house that was fully wired with cameras and broadcast live 24 hours a day, and the audience got to micromanage his life. Everything from how he was woken up in the morning, pancakes and eggs or mariachi band, to important life decisions around what he was going to do with his career, he was going to date. It was a great balance of both integrations. You know, he got all his voting on his Evo phone. He drove around in his Ford all day long, but it wasn't overbearing. It was very much part of the story. And then, you know, with Snickers, it was more of an affinity play for that audience, where we had the Snickers Unwrapped moment of the day, and we syndicated that throughout the network. The results were astonishing. A couple million votes cast, 20 minutes per viewer on the site. The engagement levels are out of control, and we're talking about doing season 2 right now.
We launched last year for McDonald's Europe, happystudio.com. It's a digital rewards program attached to Happy Meals. We launched it across 40 European countries. It was just a massive sort of scope and scale in terms of languages and the depth of the experience. It has millions of kids now using it on a monthly basis, and is driving more Happy Meal sales. So it's been an amazing program.
Cool. So perhaps we, should talk a little bit about definitions here. How do you guys define content marketing, and what's the difference between content marketing and advertising? Anyone?
I can take that first, I guess. We've built all of DBG around content being the foundation. You know, whether that's content adjacency to an ad that you're running, the right content to be next to, or content you want to be integrated into, or content we're creating specifically for you. I think that the major difference between, the question was basically, what's the difference between content and just regular advertising? I think that there's a big gray line there, at the end of the day. People have been buying content adjacency since advertising was created, really at the end of the day. I think it's more of an evolution of how we use content, how we look at content, how we're ingesting content as consumers, and how to best align a brand with that so it's not too intrusive and yet getting their point across.
Yeah, I guess a good way to kind of try and define that gray line is that the content marketing shouldn't really feel like advertising. Yeah. If you're consuming some content and if you're not realizing that it's advertising, that's probably the best kind of content marketing you could do.
Right, because the difference being then that, advertising has evolved to something, that people are trying to avoid, like even to the point of, with things like Spotify, they're paying for a service to avoid the ads, or they're getting TiVo to avoid the TV ads, whereas content marketing is something that actually provides some kind of value that people actually are actively seeking out, and that also reflects positively on the brand. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think to me too, it's the level of interactivity and the fact that the consumer is part of that entertainment and part of that experience, whereas perhaps advertising or traditional entertainment is just being taken in. So I think it's that the consumer is part of the experience is really a key part of that.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. Just to just expand on that point, just really having a consumer, it's okay that they know it's advertising as long as they feel like they're getting some kind of value out of it.
Yeah. So, I mean, Doug, what's the difference then? Because, branded entertainment and content marketing is nothing new. It's been around since the days of the soap operas. How is the content marketing and the branded entertainment done in the digital world of today different from back in those days?
I think it's the consumer's in control. I mean, the aspect that someone can take an existing property, characters, worlds, brands, and then the consumer suddenly in control and sort of, perhaps they're curating it or perhaps they're, creating it. So that aspect of the consumer able to being in control of the entertainment or being the director of the entertainment, I think is a really interesting aspect and where you're starting to see a lot of these branded content experiences going.
True. So basically you're saying that, it's also a two-way conversation these days, whereas, the old style analog advertising or content marketing was basically a one-way solution. So I want to go back to Hussein real quickly here and talk about Facebook. I mean, in the description of this panel, we talked about how to start conversations, using content marketing. And it seems like there are new metrics emerging where we're talking about engagement metrics. We're talking about some of the earlier presenters talked about on Facebook and those kind of metrics that we're starting to see. So what do brands or what should brands talk about to engage their audience and how do they do that successfully on Facebook?
So first of all, what brands should be talking about, that's a little bit more difficult to answer. Every brand's very different in terms of what they should be talking about. Obviously, they should be engaging their audience, asking questions, getting feedback, making it a two-way conversation. In terms of specifically on Facebook, they have slowly been moving over to quite a different model. So they don't really want people to even really talk about impressions and clicks anymore. They want people to talk about reach, engagement. They even have a metric called people talking about. So if you own a fan page, you can see how many fans you have and you can see how many people are talking about your brand. And a few weeks ago, I was in New York for FMC, and they are trying to make the page post and the page kind of the center of all brand marketing. So everything is supposed to be based on, I make a post on my fan page, I have my fans engaging with it, let me turn that into an ad, let me turn that into a conversation, and take the conversations, put them into people's news feeds, eventually put them into mobile news feeds. But really, the ads are not really supposed to be advertiser or agency created content anymore, but more conversations, user-generated content, basically things that are going on the page posts, and turning those into ad units. So it's very different. It is really taking content and turning that into advertising. So content marketing as opposed to what we're used to.
So if a big brand comes, you work with several large campaigns, right? Like, can you give us a dollar range of how much people are spending through your system on Facebook? Yeah,
so I mean, there's a pretty wide variety. I mean, the average campaign over here in Canada is usually somewhere between, $25,000, $100,000. In the US, it's quite a bit more, usually somewhere between 100 and 500 up to $1 million. And they have different objectives. I mean, some of them are just trying to drive new fans. And actually, if you look, historically, it's been a lot of just driving new fans. More recently, they're starting to realize that they need to engage that fan base, so it's starting to their spend is starting to shift to things like page post sponsored stories and trying to engage their existing fan base. Or even better, what some guys are doing is they're creating ads targeted to the fan base but driving them offsite. So for example, if they're running a contest or they're trying to sell something, they can now go and advertise to their fans instead of advertising to a general user base, and we see sometimes 5 to 10x increase in performance by doing that.
Yeah, because I think that's a really interesting point that you bring up. So this was mentioned earlier today during the presentations too. So, all right, so let's say you spend a couple of $100,000 on Facebook ads, and you build up a fairly solid, fan base on Facebook for your brand. So, what then? What do I do when I have these fans on my Facebook page? How do I engage them, and how do I monetize that to, the ultimate goal of any kind of marketing or sales is actually to drive, yes, brand recognition, but ultimately sales of products and services, right? So I guess one of the more effective things would be to be able to drive people from their Facebook page to some kind of commercial platform.
Yeah, so actually, in a recent campaign we run, it's for one of the largest auto manufacturers in the world. What we did is we identified zip codes near dealerships, and we also identified zip codes of high household incomes because this was a luxury car, and we specifically drove fans to the fan page using those zip codes. So now we got a whole bunch of fans on this fan page that are people who have high household incomes who live near a dealership. Then what we did is we started to take out ads targeted to those fans, getting them to request a brochure or to come in for a test drive. So now you have that, really the end goal, which is eventually to sell a car, but the first step is request a brochure, the second step is go for a test drive, but we're specifically targeting those fans that we drove that we know are going to be highly likely or more likely than the average person to go and purchase that car.
That's basically a traditional lead generation program then, where the client would measure the success in the in amounts of brochures and stuff downloaded, or
yeah. And in the meantime, you're engaging the fan base, right? I mean, in the meantime, as you build up that fan base, you're posting content to the fan page once a day. You're asking them what their favorite color is, what their favorite car is, and you're keeping that fan base engaged. And then when you hit them with an ad, that's something that it's an engaged fan base, and they're willing to go and make it out to that page.
How are you guys at Arkadium approaching Facebook?
I mean, I'm on the mobile side, so I can't speak too much to what they're doing on Facebook on that side. I know that from a mobile point of view, obviously we're going to be using Facebook within our games. But it just, the users on the mobile games are just not engaging with Facebook the same way that they are obviously on Facebook games and that we've got on some of our online games. So we're seeing a lot lower percentages of users even connecting through Facebook. So at least on our mobile side, we've got a lot of unique challenges where we've got, just multiple social networks and game networks that we've got to deal with outside of Facebook. I mean, on the online side, obviously we've got a lot of clients that we're dealing with, and now moving into our own IP as well to strengthen our quality of work that we're doing.
Because games are really the most popular form of entertainment if you look at the iTunes App Store or any of the mobile app stores, right?
Yeah, I mean, games is what I love, and I've always loved doing that. And I think that from an end user point of view as well, I think that when you're playing a game, it's something that you're so deeply engaged in while you're doing it. And I think it's a really good opportunity for people who want to get their brand out there and have more people aware of their brand, because while you're doing that, while you're in the game, you're just so much more focused on what you're actually seeing. And it's it's not passive, and it is very in-depth. And so there's good and bad with that. And some of the things that you have to be careful of is that, gamers are very savvy people. And if you're talking about even a game like a hidden object game where you have to click and find all the different objects on the screen, the user is primed for finding things. And so you got to make sure that you're being very savvy with how you're presenting your brand, and what we talked about before, not hitting them over the head so much with your brand, because I think that they're gonna shut down. They're not gonna come back, and that's really what we want to do with our games, on Facebook as well as on mobile, is have people keep coming back. So We want them to come back, play for a short period of time, come back later in the day, come back tomorrow, keep coming back more and more often. And, at least on the mobile side, Apple has recently changed their structure of how they rank top games. And although they haven't made it public, from what I've been talking to some other advertisers and analytics companies, they're saying that that re-engagement and users keep coming back more often will put you higher up in the ranking. And the higher that you can go in the ranking, the less that you have to spend on ads to acquire new users. Sorry.
I'm okay with that. We're not on mobile.
But that's I think really what you want to do, even as a brand, is be able to kind of get that snowball going where you can get up in the top as much as you can and let it do its thing.
Great. So I want to bring in the audience too. I don't just want this to be an internal discussion up here. I mean, we have a really great panel here. Someone who represents games and mobile. Someone who represents Facebook and online video here with Doug and Jeff, who's worked on a lot of branded entertainment campaigns. So if you have any questions on any of these topics, feel free to come up to the mic here and just ask your question. Otherwise, I'm gonna go on here because I got lots of questions for you guys. Jeff, you had something?
I want to just throw in the Facebook thing. I've been finding and seeing that so many brands on Facebook these days are just, it's like they're dating and it's like they're desperate. I mean, our posts, it's like we're just wanting people to please engage with us. We'll do any post about whatever stupid little promotion or contest or the survey today. And it just seems like we're acting in such desperation for engagement that I feel like we're really sort of losing sight of business results, losing sight of how you should act as a brand. I think it really differs whether you're sort of a high interest brand or a low interest brand. I mean, you have, obviously, if you're a high interest brand, you already have fans, like true, not online fans, you just have fans as a brand. I think you have to act very differently and just provide your online audiences with really great tools so that they can explode their fandom. And that's a really good strategy when you're a high interest brand. But I think we ought to stop this sort of desperation in our Facebook strategies and really focus on how we do solid tools, solid brand experiences, and integration of mobile and social into our brand experiences, into retail, into our actual products. I mean, operating these things in a silo just is a real problem these days, and I really don't feel is working.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I mean, someone told me that you should think about Facebook marketing as being at a party, right? And anything that you do at a party that would not work out will not work out on Facebook. So desperation, hey, anyone, come talk to me, probably won't make you the most popular person at the party. Standing there with a sales pitch saying, hey, come buy my products, probably won't, work either. And just in general, by being interesting, by having things to say, by engaging with other people, asking them questions, listening as well as talking, that's what makes you an interesting person at the party.
So how do you be the brand with the lamp on your head and your pants off? Is that the strategy?
Basically, right.
Yeah, and I would agree. We Facebook and social media in general is a big part of most of the programs we're launching for brands, especially the larger ones. Sometimes they can be the home for the program. For example, last year for HP Beats, we did a concert series in Times Square with Train Reason One Republic, and we hubbed that all as a live stream on a tab in Facebook for HP. Took advantage of all those bands' fan bases to help drive community around those concerts, and in that scenario, we're the guys that brought the band, so it works out for the party for the most part in scenarios like that. In the past, it's nice to see that was last year, and going into this year, brands started thinking about it a little bit more smartly. Before, it was more of a check the box. All right, does this unit have the Facebook icon on it? Okay, good, we checked off social, let's move on. It's nice to see that brands and us as a companies are pushing the fact that social is a part, especially for us when we're launching a new show, that's the property we're launching. And social is certainly a part of that, but also so is paid media, so is other earned media, and it kind of can all drive into a community that can then be used effectively.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of content should brands put up on their social media pages? Because it seems like these days brands are struggling a little bit with what to do with these new media channels. Yes, they want engagement. Yes, they want fans. But how do they get that? And once I've assembled the people here, you know, to the party, then, you know, how do we make it a successful party? Does it mean that, you know, in the future or even today, that brands and regular companies have to become media companies in a sense and actually start producing articles and videos and content just in order to do marketing? Or is that something that they should outsource?
I think that they definitely should be programming to their fans or likes or to their base. And what that is varies greatly, I think, depending on the brand. And I can give you some examples. I mean, the one I just laid out for HP made a lot of sense. You're bringing music to a music product to your fans, and that was well received. We did something for a car manufacturer that worked very well outside of Facebook as just content, because it was more of a stretch. It was a cooking show that, you know, that was aligned to families for their product that was going after that target base. But when they put it on their Facebook page, people didn't want it. People on the Facebook page that liked this car manufacturer wanted things about cars, you know, and they wanted news about cars and what things were going on about cars. They didn't necessarily want a cooking show, you know. So it really varies greatly on what the reasons why your fan base or your likes are liking you in the first place is what you should be thinking about.
If I can just add one thing there too, I think that everybody should read Amber MacArthur's book, Power Friending. It's really great. It's, in that it just tells these brands and these companies on their Facebook pages and on Twitter to just like listen really to what your fans and what your audience is saying and respond to them. Because what I see with a lot of these is they'll have their fan page, they'll post up questions, they'll get their survey responses that they want, but then if you look inside of the wall, there's a lot of people asking questions. You know, like, what about this? I've been having problems with this thing. Whatever it is, they just completely ignore it. So they're not using it in the way that they should be in this way to have a conversation with their fans or a communication with them. And I think that people see through that and just completely turn right off. So I think that's something that's really easy that any company can do.
When we talk about digital experiences, one of the things, and it's really relevant to social media, is we talk about how you really have to be equal parts infrastructure, programming, and promotion. And most brands and companies are actually doing a lot of promotion, right? They got social media interns, they have people developing videos or content or posts, so they're actually spending a lot of time in that area. But infrastructure is, for the most part, is really poor. I mean, people aren't spending enough time on building really good apps, really good web experiences that tie into their products or retail experiences, or like just add value more on a software level or on that infrastructure really seems to be lacking. And promotion as well. I mean, promotion's happening, but again, we seem to be mostly focusing on programming area and often weak and shallow programming. But we need much better infrastructure happening. We really need more, deeper experiences, more integrated experiences, real sort of product value adds in our online experiences. I think we really need to spend more time on that area.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, if I can just say something about, I think that there's still a place for shallow experiences as well, because I think that if every brand is going to go in thinking that they need to have a deep experience, I think it will shut a lot of them off and say, well, we can't invest in that, we don't have the money for that or the time or whatever. So I think that there's still a place to have just little bits of information. It just has to be done really well, and it has to make sense with the brand that you've got.
It's a real challenge in Canada where budgets are where budgets are small, and it's like, how do you do deep brand experiences or really create large infrastructure digital projects on some of the budgets that we have to work with, and that can be a real challenge. So
I think that in some ways too, brands can become curators of experiences on a particular topic. So say for example, you have a product that's not very sexy, but it's used in a particular way, and if you start engaging people who are interested in a particular area where that product is used, then all of a sudden people will come back and share experiences and so on. And you don't necessarily need to be talking about your product, but you show yourself as, a thought leader and a curator, and that you know this space really well. And is that something, Hussein, that you see that works on Facebook in not just, posting about your own stuff, but, more the world at large around that universe that you play in?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a good idea if your fans are into it. I think that to kind of add to what everyone's saying about what you should be posting, I think there's a generic rule that you should post to your fan page once a day. But that rule doesn't apply if you don't know what to post and you're posting just for posting, right? And if you're just going in and say, oh, crap, I need to make a post today, let me say something random or pitch one of my products, that doesn't work, right? So in that case, if you really feel like you need to post once a day, which I think in general is a good idea, try and like you said, listen to what your fans are asking for and go answer some questions and build off of what they're asking and what they're saying instead of just trying to post something new which your fans don't really care to hear about.
Yeah, I mean, when we're, if we're doing business development with somebody, clients or whatever it is, we don't sit down in a meeting that's our first time meeting with them and start pitching to them right off the bat. We get to know the people. We want to develop a relationship with our clients or whoever it is that we're working with, and then maybe you can start to talk business after the second or third meeting or whatever it is. And I think that's exactly what maybe goes along with what Hussein is saying too, is that just get a conversation. You don't need to sell something all the time. It's just get people talking,
Yeah, it's normal courtesy. Like it's what would work at a party.
That's right.
So and there's another thing too. I mean, I've been thinking more about what makes a video go viral, and this is perhaps something that you could speak to, Doug. Like a lot of people, and even earlier today, we were talking about viral videos, this and that, and there's viral video implies that there's no control, and that there are clients coming in saying, hey, we want a viral video, can you produce one for us? Whereas that's something where it's very hard to manufacture. So in the whole online video space right now, what are the hot areas?
I hear cats.
What's after viral
cats
videos?
work, yeah.
Cats and sex, right? It's a conundrum. Of course, everybody wants videos that you create to take a life unto themselves and to be shared and to pass around with minimal dollars behind them. Can you create them? Yeah, sure, you can. I mean, it's the creative at the end of the day. It's kind of really the idea that's going to drive that, and whether it resonates and is shareable and is worth people to say, wow, that's awesome. I got to send that or post that or do something with it. You can help it along as well. You can definitely put some paid media behind it. You can seed it strategically in places where people will find it quicker. But there's a line to be drawn. I've worked with brands that wanted to, that came to me with a viral campaign, quote unquote, and they wanted to track everything about it, and we kind of manufactured for what they were considering a viral campaign. I wouldn't necessarily have considered it a viral campaign, like from an organic standpoint, necessarily. So there's no real answer. I think that if you really want a viral video, just the definition of a virus is something that you're not really looking for, right? It just kind of happens. So yes and no. You can kind of manufacture it. It can be done. You got to come up with a great idea, and then just play it smartly, I think.
Yeah, I think you have to be prepared to fail with
exactly.
it too.
Agree, 100%.
And, we were talking about this backstage too, that, there's a lot of people talking about the Coney video. If you go to their YouTube page, you can see that they've got 270 other videos. That's a lot of failures before they've hit their viral video. And that takes a lot of determination to keep going through all of that. We see that with Draw Something, which is this massive hit game out of nowhere, apparently, for mobile and now Facebook. They're getting 1 billion ads served on their game per day, and they've got every day 10 million people come and play their game. It's massive money. They were just sold to Zynga for $200 million yesterday, this company, based on this one game that was released 5 weeks ago. And so I think that that's kind of a viral game that happened. You know, they've failed. They've been around on Facebook for a couple of years now and have had really poor success, and they just stuck with it, made some changes. Angry Birds was the 51st game that Rovio had created. They failed 50 times before they did that. So if you want to do viral, if you want to take that risk to do it, you have to be okay with failing.
It's a risk-reward scenario, right?
Exactly.
It's like investing in high-risk stocks. Those are the ones that will go up hundreds of %. Whereas
Yeah, I mean, if I knew anybody here could make my game viral, and they could guarantee that, I mean, we'd be... I'd have my arms around them right now. We'd be working together.
We cringe when I get these requests for viral, because for us it's like a no-win situation. You know, it's like you're coming to me to manufacture something that shouldn't be manufactured in the first place, and it's most likely not going to work.
Does it seem like some clients might, you know, be under the impression that if you look at the new marketing mix as being, you know, paid, earned, social, and what is the fourth one? Paid, earned, social. Anyway, so if you look at the marketing mix as being, you know, the difference between, you know, paid and non-paid media, it seems like a lot of brands might think that, well, starting a Facebook page or putting viral videos out and so on will cost less than actually running a paid campaign. Whereas some of them are starting to see that this is actually, you know, something that's more expensive than paid ads, because it's, you know, it's a beast that constantly needs to be fed. It takes time to build up. It's very labor intensive and so on. Are you guys seeing any kind of feedback on that?
I like that we had a little Rick Perry moment there. That was cool. You know, sometimes the viral videos feels like brand jazz hands, like we're just trying to get noticed, you know, and it has nothing to do with the brand or product or what we're trying to do. I'd rather, and I've gotten those briefs too. We want to do a viral video, and you're like, wow, I'd like to be true to who that brand is and what their message is and what their brand strategy is. I mean, certainly these days there seems to be this approach and strategy that says if you're famous, it equals business results. And I think on a certain level it does, but we're also in this world of product life cycles, and promotional life cycles are incredibly fast, like unlike they've ever been. So you can be famous for 3 days or half a week or maybe a couple weeks, right, under these approaches and strategies, but that's it, and the consumers move on to the next thing, right? So it feels like you're chasing your tail a bit with that kind of approach and strategy, and I think we want to be careful that we develop a strategy for our business and our brand that has a longer life cycle than that, and a longer life cycle with the consumer.
Yeah, and I'd just like to, you know, longer is exactly the point. You know, I mean, one of the biggest challenges we have in this medium, in the online medium with content, is for some reason a lot of brands that are funding this and you know, they don't think the rules apply. And when I say that, I mean, like, they just think, all right, great, well, we made some content, well, we put it up, where's the audience? It's like, you do understand that major studios spend millions of dollars promoting their content on NBC, ABC, whatever it may be. You know, you can't walk down the street and not see a billboard for The Office. That's one of the reasons why people know so much about it. To get sustainable programming online, there needs to be a mind shift a little bit around the fact that it's going to take time to develop this content, it's going to take time for people to find this content, and it's going to take, you know, you got to be patient with it as the audience builds organically.
Yeah, because I mean, that's what I hear from you know, a lot of people who are experimenting with starting social media channels and so on. You know, they say, okay, well, you know, we paid this guy to create a Facebook page, but, you know, it's almost embarrassing because we have like 50 fans and there's nothing going on the Facebook page. So now I think we're going to have an intern start posting some stuff. And, you know, it seems to me that that's not really the right approach. You know, you need to really invest in creating some quality content, or at least set up some strategy for what kind of content that you want to do. And some people are talking about even having, you know, a conversational calendar that you plan with your PR agency and your marketing agency throughout the year. And, you know, there are several different touch points that you have we heard Contently here present earlier today, which I thought is a really interesting company where they match journalists with brands so that they can get some quality content sourced that way. But should people be doing this internally? Because it seems like the company might know their brand better than anyone else, or who can they go to when it comes to creating these sort of things? It's a layup, so take it here.
They can come to me. And I think that, we sit in a good position. I mean, personally myself, I've been in the video space probably before, too early. And we've worked with all these different brands. And we have a voice that we have a good sense of how to balance that brand messaging with editorial to not make it overbearing and to find good content to align with as well. So I think that you're right. The brand does know themselves best, but that can also hurt you in a lot of ways because then you want it at the forefront of everything, and you need to find that balance. You're talking to a lot of people, not just to another brand manager. So I think it's good to work with outside consultative types of companies like a DBG or pretty much everybody in this panel has that kind of discipline within what they do.
It's like the gold rush, like after everyone went, there's no gold left anymore, it seems like, and everyone's in it and they're all panning for gold and no one can find the gold. And that's kind of like this environment we're in, and it's why we need marketers and brands to write better briefs that are strategic and on brand and really focused on a long-term business vision, and why agencies and partners and content partners need to just be really strategic with what they do. Go back to positioning and being really true to ourselves, and I think that's in the long run really going to do more service to our brands.
Move away from just initiative-based content, I guess. This is what we're promoting today, so this is what we need content around.
At the same time, I think there's great opportunity to start looking at our business and our categories and think, how can I cheat? Like, how can I cheat? Where are the opportunities for me to cheat? Where can I create something, especially in a digital experience, a social, mobile, or integration, that is completely different than what's outside of my category, what's outside of my brand and my business? Where are those opportunities? Because if I can cheat somewhere and do something really different, that's probably, and if it's true to my brand, that's probably where we can win.
Yeah, so you shouldn't think about it as a campaign, but more of a, you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, and I mean, that's something that Facebook always talks about. They're always talking about the ongoing conversation and not kind of a one-time event, a one-time campaign.
And I think that's a good note to end on. We're out of time, so thank you all for sharing your knowledge, and I guess you guys will be around too in case anyone has any more questions.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.